Welcome to the Recruiter Startup Podcast. My name's Dulta Doherty, and in this podcast series, I will be interviewing investors, advisors, entrepreneurs, and recruiters who are based all over the world, and we will be discussing how to set up, scale, and operate a world-class recruitment company. Today's guest is Quamy Dean. He has launched, scaled, and wound down a successful recruitment business in Australia. He's originally from Glasgow and he's recently moved back there for family reasons. He's had some time to reflect on his journey and invest his time in a new project, building a software he believes that will solve all the problems that we have in the recruitment industry. We didn't jump in too much into the software, but we went into his journey in quite a lot of depth. And it's a fascinating story with one of recruitment's great minds. I hope you enjoy. Quamy Dean, how are you?
Good morning, Dota. How are you?
I am the best.
Fantastic. How's the kids? How's the running?
The running is only starting again. I'm in my little fat phase coming up to Christmas. So I think I mentioned yesterday, I'm going to sign up for a white collar fight in the new year to get fit and get the head right. So that's on the agenda.
Are you going to be boxing with other recruiters?
I'd love to.
That would be quite good.
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah.
Viral.
No gloves. Yeah. So thanks for coming on. I've been pestering you for a little while. I know you haven't done anything like this in the past, but
Yep.
You have an interesting story. It's been a long and turbulent and eventful journey that you've been on, and it started real young for you. So
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you to your listeners for listening to me.
So I suppose what I'd like to do is, in doing a wee bit of research here, I came across the fact that you ran nightclubs when you were 12 years old. How does that happen? How does a 12-year-old get involved in that? Yeah.
Well, I got a sort of scholarship to a private up in a working class neighbourhood in Glasgow, and I got a scholarship, I think it's called a scholarship, to a private school. So they only have 2 positions a year that they give to poorer people of the city. So I got one of them. Anyway, first year in school, secondary school, we had a school disco, and the kids were going behind the curtains and stuff, and the teachers were giving them into trouble, boys and girls. So I thought to myself, it'd be good to have a party without parents and teachers. So I literally went into the city, knocked on nightclub and said, can you rent me out your nightclub? The first 4 basically told me to go away and said, you're 12 years old, go away. The 5th one, which was a nightclub called Mardiga, said, if you can come up with 250 quid, we'll give it to you. So I printed out tickets, I started selling them, I tentatively booked it in with the club, and the night was amazing. It was an amazing night, and it just continued every couple of months. And I specifically segmented the market to private school kids only, because private school kids didn't want to mix with, obviously, the working class. Or
more money, less trouble.
Yeah. So I got lucky. I mean, I literally got lucky, and then I continued doing that. And then I ended up working for a nightclub at 16, just getting a job, working for an under-18s, quite popular event in Glasgow. And then I moved into, at 17, I think I was working in an over-21s club. And continue that. And then I ended up working for the top nightclub in Glasgow, and building teams and running nights and stuff. It was good. It was good fun.
Very good.
I mean, I got lucky. I somehow managed to create great teams. I wouldn't say that was down to any strategy or anything, but it was good fun and it was good people. And the fundamentals of what I did back at that age still apply to any successful company. It's about team. It's about culture. You know, I did it by accident.
let's digress a little bit. What when you were at the private school as essentially the poor cousin, did did you feel that? Did you integrate okay? You're from an immigrant family.
Yeah.
That you must have stuck out like a sore thumb.
Well, I mean, I remember the first day of school, and my dad bought me a second-hand blazer that was from a fourth-year kid. In first year, I was about 10 times the size, and in the pouring rain, I used to just wear the shirt and hold the blazer uh, in my hand because I felt self-conscious. And I used to get the bus to school, and I used to watch all the other kids getting dropped off by their parents in their fancy cars, and that definitely created a desire within myself that I didn't talk about. It was just deep in myself that I wanted to be successful. You know, I mean, we're human. We compare ourselves to others, and as a child, when you see other kids have more than what you have, there's a sense of envy, I would call it.
Mm. So let's jump back into the nightclub stuff. So I've done that as well.
Yep.
Although I didn't do the event management piece, I ran a nightclub. It's
Yep.
hard. It's hard work.
Yep.
Dealing with security guards that like a fight is tough work.
Yep.
Dealing with staff that don't really care and drink on the job is tough. And
Yep.
managing your own health within all of that is
Yep.
really tough as well. Living at night isn't great
Yep.
for the health. So,
Yep.
but I think something I took away from it is that in tough times of recruitment, it's not as tough as cleaning ashtrays at 6 a.m. in a nightclub, or
Yep.
or dealing with doormen and drug dealers and all the stuff that goes on in that environment. Did
Yep.
it build a certain resilience in you?
I think growing up in Glasgow builds a resilience. I mean, I didn't really think too much of it. I just dealt with life as the cards that were dealt to me. I mean, it definitely built resilience. I mean, I'm the youngest of 9 children from an Indian immigrant family born in Scotland. And growing up, even where I grew up, I would call it sort of scheme life. And there was a lot of racism, you know. So you had to learn to fight. I mean, I was called every name under the sun walking to school. And I mean, you're literally walking to school from the age of 4 yourself with your big brothers and stuff. But you learn how to handle yourself when you're involved in altercations, hundreds of them regularly. But I mean, I wouldn't say it was really bad, because
It was normal.
it was just what it is, and you didn't know any better. The only first instance that I saw a different side to Glasgow was when I went to the private school and I saw material wealth. You know, and I went into some of my friends' houses and stuff, and I went, wow, this is incredible. You know, I remember going into one friend's house in his basement area. He was only a young kid. He had DJ set. He had a cinema room and music Techniques 1210s decks. They're music mixing decks. And this is a young kid just in a huge basement area in a fancy house with electronic gates. And I'd never seen anything like that, you know. So seeing stuff like that definitely created desire.
Yeah. I remember growing up in Donegal, and we weren't poor, but there wasn't a lot of wealth around as such, especially before the Celtic Tiger. I remember one of my friends, his parents owned a pub, and we thought he was rich. So you just kind of get into the environment that you're in.
But we were never poor either. I mean, we weren't homeless or hungry or on the streets or anything, you know. And I earned money from like 5 years old, doing paper rounds, 8 years old, selling jeans in the street of Glasgow. So I always made my money. I mean, my dad had an Indian restaurant. He worked 7 days a week from 9 o'clock in the morning till like 1 o'clock in the morning. And that work ethic was definitely given. I mean, my dad gave me an incredible work ethic, you know. I mean, from a very young age, he had me doing his books and bookkeeping and stuff and writing down receipts and adding stuff up, and I'd get pocket money. If I wanted anything, my dad made me work for it in his restaurant, you know. So that work ethic was given to me, and it was a gift.
Yeah,
because you need that.
Gary V calls it the immigrant mentality, and it's just generally like people who grow up somewhere else, come to a country, know that they have to make it, and that the buck stops with them. That you get more out of them. And I think, in the business that I run, sending recruiters to Australia, and that's how we first came in contact. People want recruiters from the UK because they can squeeze a wee bit more out of them than they could from the Australians. But we'll jump into all of that a little bit later.
I mean, I can't comment. What I've seen, I can only comment on my experience, my opinions. But yeah, I mean, definitely you do see a lot of immigrants that do well because of their work ethic. And my dad gave that to me, watching my dad, just his incredible work ethic,
And so you got to, you were doing the nightclub thing, you got to a stage with it. What was it that made you go, do you know what? I'm going to go travel the world and I'm going to go find a different industry.
Well, I didn't even think. I mean, again, my life has been a lot of luck and a lot of unplanned events. And I've got lucky in life. I have to be very grateful because I have done reasonably well. And a lot of it's due to luck and timing and what have you. I mean, we were still in the club scene. I was doing a degree during the day. So I was doing law and marketing with honours. And I was working in the nightclubs at night. And I'd finished my degree. And I was still working in a nightclub because I was paid very well, really well.
Were you thinking you were going to be a lawyer at the time?
Nah, I didn't do the LLB. I did a mixed degree with law subjects. So
a posh business degree then.
Yeah. So coming back to how I made the decision to travel, literally, the weather was rubbish. Me and my best friend were sitting, I think it was 99, we were sitting watching the movie The Beach. It looked amazing, day in, day out. I also had about 4 or 5 years experience working in Spain during summers while university was closed. So I'd experienced the heat, and with the Indian background, I've always known that I wanted the sunshine. We're watching the beach, and I said, I need to get out of here. The world's got some amazing places. I need to go and see it. So me and my mate, I said to my mate that night that I'm leaving. And he started laughing, saying that you've got a nice life in Glasgow, you're doing well, you're running the clubs, pretty much most of the city, you're not going to leave. And then him and my other friend started making bets that I'm not leaving. And then the next day, I think I was waiting for the bus, and I put my hand out for the bus, and it was a really bad weather day, typical of Glasgow, and it was raining, and the bus driver ignored me and just decided to go over a huge puddle and soaked me. And that day I booked a one-way ticket to Australia that took me through a lot of countries.
So that was your Goodwill Hunting moment.
Yeah, if you want to call it that. I just thought to myself, I'm young. I've still got a chance to see the world. Let's see what it's all about. There was no specific plan. I mean, I always knew that I wanted to visit India because my heritage was India. So I wanted to see what my culture and my history and what it was all about. So I spent quite a lot of time in India while I was traveling.
So you did a ton of countries.
Yep.
You learned a lot about different cultures, I'm sure, about yourself.
Yep.
You probably went to that beach where DiCaprio was at and was completely disappointed. And it was overrun with tourists. And
I remember that moment very clearly. Because I sat down. It was dead. It was still before Thailand had become hugely commercialised.
Really?
I was sitting on that beach. There was pretty much nobody there, and it was me. And I thought to myself, "That's beautiful. It's stunning." But you know what? Places themselves don't make the experience. It's people around you that make the experience.
That's really true,
So I still remember that moment, and I remember thinking I've had really good times, and it's the people around me that make that. Whether it's a terrible experience or a good experience, it's the people around you that will make the experience.
Were you getting a little homesick while you were thinking that?
No, I wasn't getting homesick, no.
So you were still on your journey?
Yeah, no.
So you ended up in Australia. How'd you get into recruitment?
Well, my money, I had quite a bit of money saved up but my money started getting low. I mean, remember, I'd been on the road for about just under a year, I think it was. And I thought, I need to get a job. There was an ad in the newspaper about selling something for a financial institution. And I looked at the job description in the newspaper and I thought, I can do that. I don't see any reason. Remember, I had a history of sales all throughout my life. I've sold everything door to door, gym memberships, kitchens. A lot of them were commission-only jobs, and I always did quite well at that. And I looked at the job ad and I thought I could do that. There was no experience required in the financial industry. It was just sales experience required. So I called and it asked for CVs to be sent to them to a PO box. But somehow I managed to work out who was taking the applications, and I got the phone number, and I didn't realize it was an agency. I didn't even know back then what an agency was. And I basically cold called the guy, pitched him myself. So basically I reverse marketed myself and convinced him that I'm perfect for the job and that he should give me the job. And he invited me in. Now, I thought I was going in to see the recruiting manager for the financial company. It turned out it was an agency. And when I got there, he convinced me that I should look at a career in recruitment. And I thought to myself, why not? I'm here. Let's try it. So it was by chance. And I'm sure thousands of your listeners, it's probably very similar to them as well.
What were those early days like? This is pre-millennial, or is it around the year 2000 now?
Yeah, it was after millennial. Can't remember exactly when, but it was after millennial. It was good. I mean, it was commission only, so I got 40% of everything I build. It was good. I got lucky. I think in a few days I got my first client, and I mean, I have a very curious nature, so I ask a lot of questions, and it's a gift as well as a curse because I know that my nature can annoy people because I ask 1,000 questions. And I went to the client, asked them 1,000,000 questions, found them a few candidates, and I think I ended up.
I can vouch for that. You asked me 1,000,000 questions before coming on here.
And it can be a curse because I know it can annoy people, but it's just my nature. I've got an inquisitive mind. I'm really curious about things, how they work. I like to get into the detail and go, right, okay, brilliant. Now I understand it. Can I improve it? You know, so I've always got that mindset.
What were you recruiting for back then?
It was general.
Yeah. So anything. Yeah.
It was general, whatever customers needed. So what was the question? What was it like in the early days? It was good fun. Yeah. It was good fun. I mean, it wasn't as hard as it is now. It's changed a lot. You know.
Yeah, and you've had a long career, so I'm definitely not going to go through every bit. So
yep.
It went quite well in the early days. How long did you work for that company?
I can't remember.
Before you set up, or how long?
I think it was a couple of years
before you set up on your own.
But coming back to the experience, so one of the things about the experience, straight away, I knew that I walked into the office, I sat down, the computer was really slow. It really annoyed me in the first day, and I ended up buying my own computer. Now, commission only, trying to dig into your savings and travel money, it was quite a strain. And then also one of the things I noticed that, and I know myself, I'm disorganized. I always need an admin person. So I went to the boss and I said, I need an admin person to organize me, organize my day, organize things that I'm doing so I can get maximum productivity. My boss says, yeah, that's fine. Get whoever you want. And I hired someone myself, but pay for it. I had to pay for it myself. So that was a bit of a knock. However, the girl I got, she was amazing. She was a student and she just worked for me part-time, 2-3 hours a day. And she just came in between classes and stuff. So a lot of my success in the early days was because of the admin person behind me.
Well, I mean, yes, but it's also because you recognized that there was a fault in some of your skill set, and you figured out that, okay, I'm not going to spend all my time learning to be a great administrator. I'm going to focus on what I'm good at, and I'm going to get somebody to do that. And that can take people years to work that out.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But if I hadn't got that person, I reckon I wouldn't have been successful. I reckon I would have failed. And literally, I've had that admin person throughout my life, from a very young age. I mean, I used to have an admin person come in Scotland while I was at university who used to sort out my mail, who used to tell me if I needed to pay a bill, just because I don't want to do it.
You're like one of those child executives.
No, I just knew that I didn't want to do it, and my time is better spent elsewhere. Like running nightclubs or there was so much to do. I couldn't do it all.
That's great. So, walk me through it. How long did you work in
a couple of years
before you set up by yourself?
Yeah. And I remember it very clearly.
Walk me through what the decision-making process was for that to happen.
Okay. So I wasn't looking to set up by myself. I'm very thankful to that company. They're really good guys, and they set me up in Australia, and I got a visa and stuff. So what happened was I got tapped on the shoulder by a lovely guy called Steve. He runs an agency in Singapore now. He's still a friend of mine. And he headhunted me for a position. Now, I hadn't thought about going and working for anyone else at all. And when I sat with him and when I went through the other interviews for that other agency, I got offered the job. And then Steve obviously found out that I was supplying my own computer, I was supplying my own admin, and I was on commission only. He's like, you'd be better doing it yourself. And at that time, one of the things I said earlier, people make a place. There was a guy in the office who was best friends with the managing director who, in my opinion, was not very nice to other staff members. Now, bear in mind that I grew up in Glasgow and he was a bit rude to me one morning. And I asked him, I said, let's go to the car park and let's sort it Glasgow style. And that was happening at the same time this guy was headhunting me. And now I thought to myself, if I don't leave, I'm going to get into trouble if I stay because of this individual. So it wasn't that I was trying to set up. It just happened again by accident.
Circumstance, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, I can't stay because I don't like this guy. And this guy he was the best friends with the managing director. They grew up together. And I thought, if I don't leave, I'm going to get it. And the managing director did pull me aside and said to me, listen, you can't say that to staff members, which he's right, 100%. Let's go to the car park and sort it out. So I decided to leave and set up my own, and that was it.
And that business was called what?
Which business?
Was it the recruitment business?
Yeah. So I initially called it Mackenzie Executive. And it was an interesting story because there was a company called Mackenzie, Mackenzie Consultant or something, who was there before me. And they sent me a letter saying that you need to change your name. You're in breach of the Trade Practices Act as passing off. And I remember I studied law. So I had a reasonable understanding of the law. So I wrote back and said, yeah, okay, well, if you want me to change your name, let's have a chat. Went into the office. They're lawyers. They were heavy-handed. In that meeting, they had a partner, a senior associate, and a couple of junior lawyers. And they were saying, well, we'll take you to court. We'll do this. And I sat down very calmly and I said, you can do that. Remember, it's only me working from home. So I've got nothing to lose. You can drag me, but what I'll do is I'll make sure I'll cost you tens of thousands in legal fees. Or, remember, I've just started. So if you give me $5,000, I'll change your name. And they told me to get out of the room. And they came back 10 minutes later and gave me a check for $2,500 to change the name.
Right, rent money's paid. Wonderful. Those early days can be scary with money. You had some balls to do that.
Well, I didn't have much to lose. It was just me.
Yeah.
So there's an element of no fear,
Yeah.
So,
how did you start the visa in those early days? Was it a lot easier?
Yeah, it was a lot easier. Actually, the lawyers who were in that meeting ended up becoming my lawyers, and they were one of the best in Sydney. So they sorted out. The guy who was from one of the other partners, not for commercial litigation, he was like the immigration president for Australia. So
you got
obviously he was the best in the business. He's a lovely guy. He's still a friend to this day. He's a lovely guy. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
Walk me through how that business grew over. Was it a 10-year period, or how did that trajectory look?
Okay, so early days, it was just the first day of setting up. Obviously, I had a restraint of trade, so I couldn't go after any clients or anything like that. So I thought, okay, let's do the right thing. I think it was The Economist. I got the newspaper. I looked at analysis of the Australian sectors, and financial services was one of the biggest sectors in terms of revenue and stuff. So I thought, okay, and then I dug a little deeper into financial services, and accounting was growing at, I think it was 3 or 4% per annum growth rate for the last 10 years. So I went, well, that's good enough. Let's start with that. So literally went to the classifieds. This was the very first day. So the very first day was a really good day. And sat there, looked in classifieds, started cold calling to get jobs. And I picked up a job from a sports company that needed an accounts payable person. And back then, which certainly doesn't happen now, you get a lot of applications. And I remember putting the ad up, and I got a lot of applications through. And I was working till 10, 11 o'clock that night, and I was calling candidates, which I wouldn't do now. But back then, it was the first day of business, had no revenue, nothing. And the very first day, I spoke to a candidate about 11 o'clock at night. I arranged to meet her in Star City Casino in Sydney for a coffee. And she was great. She was amazing. So I called the client up there and then, the second day, and said, I'm bringing this candidate to you. I drove her to the interview. And then later that day, they hired, and I got a $5,000 placement. 24 hours of starting a company. Brilliant.
That is, that's unbelievable. So you had the 2.5 from the lawyers. You had the 5. You had the 5.
Oh no, the 2.5 came about 2 months after I was up and going.
And when did you start growing? Like adding headcount, and it wasn't just you in a bedroom.
Well, actually, I started headcount straight away. I got an admin person straight away because I needed one. And I don't know, about 2 or 3 months later, I hired about 3 people to work from my bedroom. So literally we had bits of wood on my bed with laptops, and I got a contract out for a mobile phone. So gave them mobile phones, and they literally were within touching distance of me. 2 other guys and 1 admin person. So it grew, I don't know, within the first 6 to 12 months. And it was good as well because I didn't know any better. So these guys at the time were commission only as well. So it wasn't a hit on cash. And cash flow, I did really well. I mean, remember at the time I was living in a shared flat, and I had a 3-bedroom flat, and the other 2 rooms I was renting out to other people, which was covering my rent. I'd got my weekly expenses down to $9 a week, which is incredible. I called my dad up. I still remember early days, and said, Dad, teach me how to cook curry. And I ate veggie curry. It was cheap as chips.
And very good. Okay, so it sounds like an unbelievable start.
It was great.
When does it go from being this assembly of people in your bedroom and move into an office and become that bit more serious?
About a year later, about a year after I started the company. That's when we got an office, and then that's when we started growing. The first couple of years were challenging, trying to attract people. Nobody knew, nobody wanted to come and work for us.
What year was that in?
I think it was 2004.
Okay, all right. So still good times economy wise. Like there was a good run on the.
Recruitment was amazing then, and I was pretty good at it. I got, again, because of my work ethic, I'd stay up till 1, 2, 3 in the morning, shortlisting people, going, right, this guy looks perfect for that job. So I'd deliver a lot faster than my competitors. While they're out, I don't know, dealing with their own personal stuff or going home or travelling in public transport, I was busy working. So I'd beat them to the punch.
So you built up a bit of a war chest financially. You get an office. Do you start getting proper employees, like as in like paying them a salary and do all that?
Yeah. So after a year,
then for the first time, your cash flow is going to get hit.
Yeah. I remember very clearly getting my first employee. I got him from a rec-to-rec agent, and I got him, paid the fee. He didn't bill anything, and then 3 months later, that specific rec-to-rec agent put him somewhere else. Now that hurt.
Wow.
So that hurt.
That is tight going. And what happened next?
Just kept persevering. Persistence.
But at what stage did you so what did you grow to in terms of headcount?
So the peak was about 35 staff. If you include contractor revenue, it was about 8 million or something. I can't remember exactly. But it went up to about 2008. It steadily grew. Yeah. And the one thing that worked really well, I couldn't attract the experienced consultants at the time. So I literally got inexperienced people who fitted culturally and trained them.
Is that not better?
Well, I can speak from my point of view that it was an amazing culture. People made the place and it was good fun. And I was reasonably young then as well. So I liked enjoying going out with them and socialising. And we did a lot of incentives when we went snowboarding and things like that. And they were amazing. They were amazing experiences, like from Thursday through to Tuesday, all paid for. It was great fun.
And a lot of people, when they're growing a company, they throw everything into it. Were you able to siphon some cash out of the business and set yourself up financially outside of the recruitment business? Because you seem to be a guy that has his fingers in everything.
No, actually, I put everything into it.
Okay.
I put everything into it, and I just worked really, really, really hard.
Now, the recession in Australia wasn't as bad as other locations, and a lot of people say, it was a tough year or year and a half. Did you find it really tough? Did you have to tighten the belt? Did you lose a lot of those headcount? What was that experience like for you?
We did tighten the headcount, and leading up to that November 2008, there was definitely we lost a few people, and we were in growth mode up until then. But the numbers just weren't working, and the people just weren't billing at all. So I had to tighten the headcount. But on that day, after that, for the year and a half later, while there was a recession and while there was a lot of recruiters out of work, our team did really well. Our profitability was probably one of the best in the entire history of my company. And I don't know if that was driven by fear, because the consultants were scared that they would lose their jobs and they didn't have anywhere to go. But the performance was better. The profitability was better during those years, 2 years, 2009, 2010. And we were every Friday night going out and doing something because we had a great week pretty much most weeks.
And tell me, when did you change your brand?
Lloyd Harrington.
Yeah, because you went into, because that wasn't the original brand. How did that decision come about?
Well, again, as I told you earlier, the McKinsey Executive Company, or McKinsey Consulting, we changed it to Lloyd Harrington.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
In that lawyer's office.
Oh, right. So it was Lloyd Harrington from the start. Very good.
Yeah, so I remember calling up Lloyd Morgan, because I thought, I don't want to deal with this again, go through lawyers. And I called up Guy. Guy's got a very successful agency in Melbourne, and I didn't know him. He didn't know me. I just called him and I said, listen, I'm going to call my company Lloyd Harrington. Do you have any problems with it? He said, no, not at all. I literally got two names out of my phone and put it together.
It's a good business name, that.
What's that? I was in the lawyer's office and I had to come up with a name for the $2,500 check.
Neither Lloyd or Harrington are from the mean streets of Glasgow, for sure.
No, Lloyd was a guy that I travelled with, and he was an accountant, and Harrington was an Italian girl that I travelled with. So
Very
So that was
good.
it. That's where the names came from. There is no Lloyd, there is no Harrington. They're just two friends that were put together.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, so after the recession, you rebuild again.
Yep.
Walk me through lessons learned at this stage of your business. You're rebuilding up a little bit. Are you starting to look at other ways to improve your business? Is it exactly the same as it was when you were setting up? Has LinkedIn, the internet, all of that, has that changed anything that you're doing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, 2007, 2008, there was initial phases of people in Australia starting to use Facebook and stuff, and it was quite interesting from a leader's point of view, because when I was talking to the staff about it, I remember saying, right, okay, I don't mind whether you guys use it or not, and if it brings in candidates, great, as long as it's productive. But what I found is a lot of the guys were just on it all day talking to their friends. And that was definitely a challenge to try and get them off it. And as the company grew, one of the things that definitely happened, I mean, we spoke about the headcount, but complacency set in as from the consultants. And I found it quite challenging to manage all the consultants because the teams didn't have managers. So I had to try and recruit managers, and I recruited a general manager at the time. Now, that didn't work out.
Was it hard to transmit your hunger to that many people?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Remember, it's no fault of their own. They've just grew up in different environments, different backgrounds, and most of them were Australian. So when you look at British recruitment consultants and Australian, a lot of the British guys in Australia had the fear of losing their visa or going back to the UK, or the Aussies didn't have that.
Yeah, I can vouch for that firsthand. I remember working for that visa, and I remember working so hard for that visa. And then when I got it, it was right. Okay, well, what was all the hard work for? Now I have to make it work and you just it kind of snowballs. And the Australians beside me just fell out all the time. Like, I'll just go work in the mines for $100,000, or I'll go work for daddy's company, or whatever it was. And you feel that kind of that bond with the other expats in the room where you're kind of all in it together.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I had to make the business successful because my visa was dependent on it as well.
Yeah, so you didn't get permanent residency along the way.
Well, the initial stages of the company, I had to actually, even though I set up the company, I had to go into partnership with another guy. So effectively, I was giving him the company, giving him the trust, giving him everything. And I was just literally an employee, even though I was running it from my bedroom. So I had to put all my trust in this one guy to set up because he was Australian. And I paid him a lot of money to be Australian.
Wow. And
so
how did that work out in the end between you?
Well, I bought him out. I just paid him and kept paying him till and then when I got my permanent residency, I made him an offer that he couldn't refuse.
Wow.
It was I mean, at the end of the day, he's the director. He owns the company. He could have effectively locked me out of my own company, but I trusted him, and he was a nice guy.
So in the last few years, you've kind of wound down business a little bit. Could you walk us through that process, why that happened, and then I think we'll talk about some of your thoughts on the industry.
Well, my parents are obviously Indian origin, and family is a big thing, and you can never get that time back. My mum's health has been ailing for many years, so it was a decision that was inevitable. I had to make a decision to come back to Scotland to look after my family. And my mum passed away about 1.5 years ago, and my dad's health is ailing. So just being in Scotland, that time and that I'll never get back. So whatever happens in life, I don't want to look back in life and go, do you know what? I didn't give mum and dad the time. I mean, I got 6 months with my mum before she passed, so I'm very grateful for that. And I'm getting time with my dad, and my dad's getting time with my son. So it's all good. It was a decision based on family.
How did you manage that with the business from the point of having quite a lot of staff to?
It was dwindling a bit as well, and yeah, I mean the staff were okay, and it was dwindling, and at the time it was challenging because I had my mind on other things as well, and there was quite a lot of people that weren't performing. I mean, throughout my career, there's been times where it's really good and times where it's been really bad, but a lot of the time it's been 25-30% of the recruiters carrying the other 70%. And as a business leader, you're constantly trying to manage cash flow, growth, staff performance, culture. I mean, there's a million different things that you're trying to do, and at the same time, lead by example. So get on the phone and bill. You know, my most successful year in the mid 2000s, whilst managing a team, I did over 7 figures myself. You know.
Yeah, it's incredible numbers.
Yeah, but I think it was a lot easier then. I have to say it was a lot easier back then. I don't know. It's just everything you touched back then, it just turned to gold.
Yeah, you were in it though 24/7 as well. So, if you could do it over again, knowing that you grew to 35 and then it kind of dwindled, you couldn't really get back after the recession, but and then it.
No, we did grow after the recession.
What did you get to after the recession?
I can't remember, but it was reasonable.
Was it around the 35 mark?
Yeah, about 25, 30 or something, yeah.
Okay. What would you do differently?
That's a great question. Systems, processes, and technology, and incentive systems. But it's challenging to change the incentive system in your company when the entire industry is falling a certain way.
Yeah, it is. You had quite the commission only model was quite an Americanized model at the start. And
that was only for the first year.
And then you went into the typical Australian big base.
Yep.
Bonus with a threshold. Is that?
Yep.
Yeah. And when you say systems, what type of systems do you mean?
ATS, CRM, marketing, everything. So recruitment's a very.
Oh, you just cut out a little bit.
Can you hear me? Yeah,
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, apologies for that. I mean, recruitment is a complex game. I mean, I've spent close to 20 years in the industry, and early days, I just grabbed the bull by the horn and done really well, and yeah, made it up as I went along. There were times where we were hiring inexperienced recruiters. I did training academies internally. I wrote a huge training manual from different sources that I got my own training from, like Mike Walmsley and different guys, and Recruiter Juice, and then guys from America, the old Tony Byrne. So, in answering my question, what would I do differently? That's a really tough question. I don't know. I would say technology, and I said incentive system, but I don't know if I could do it differently, because I mean, the incentive system drives a big portion of the behaviour in the industry, and if you look at all the competitors, it's pretty much a very similar system in Australia.
It's very uniform.
Yeah, and it's hard to change when the whole industry is like that. I mean, I tried to increase the percentages, and I think we would have been in the top 5% of the incentive systems in the entire industry, but I wouldn't have said it attracted all the top consultants. You know.
Yeah, it's a tough one. You know.
That's a very good question. I don't have a perfect answer for. I mean, recruitment's a very complex job. You know, I feel the more after 20 years of the industry, so much. You have to be a great business developer. You have to be a great admin person. You have to have marketing skills to bring in jobs. You have to have relationship building skills to get repeat business. You have to have incredible analytic skills to look at the data from the ATS so you can work out where to spend your time and where not to spend. You have to have great interviewing skills to interview candidates for your clients. You've got a great mapping skills to map out your market inside the system. You need to be able to qualify clients, time management skills, diary management, candidate managers, so much. You need to be able to, and today you need to be able to produce content, curate the content, distribute the content, email newsletters, email campaigns. Just for candidates, you need to be marriage counsellor. I mean, it's a tough job. There's a lot to do. And unfortunately, so it was about 2014, 2015, when all the recruiter bashing started in LinkedIn, from when I remember it. And I thought to myself, this is completely unfair. As an industry, no one wakes up in the morning and wants to do a bad job. But the way the pricing model has a big impact on the way leaders run their company. And yeah, I thought to myself, technology is a big part. I mean, it's not doing all the things that we need to. I mean, we need to go and get another software for marketing. We need another software for funnels. We need another software for calendar management. We need another software for applicant tracking. We need another software for headhunting. It's just ridiculous. And one of the points I made is 25 to 30% of my staff were carrying the other 70%. I think that technology and process and systems has got a big part to play. Why they're not as successful as they should be. I mean, there's a number of problems in the recruitment industry. And I could go on for about a week about the problems. But the guys I hired were good guys. I had a great culture, and always throughout, from the start right to the end, we had that family feel. So that's one thing that I did really well. And I've done that from the nightclub days to, I don't know, maybe it's because I grew up in a family of 9. But we definitely had that family culture. We had a lot of good times. But I think technology is a big part why we don't perform as an industry.
So I agree with you. There was a point you made earlier about social media and it being a distraction, and I think it is, but I also think it's the business owner's job to use the software, the automation, have the content plan in place, the distribution plan in place. Also the candidate, also the recruiter themselves can just focus on finding candidates and bringing them to market and closing jobs. The problem that we're all having, or a lot of us are having in business right now, is that we're all half doing little jobs and not doing it really well. Yeah. When I interview recruiters and I ask them about sourcing, they say, I'm strong on the candidate side. And then I delve into it a little bit. And what they really mean is putting up an ad and calling through their database. That's not, they're not expert sourcers like Dean DaCosta. They're not even studying to do that. And when they say, I'm really good at the business development side, I'm like, okay, let's jump into what that actually means. And it's very basic, older stuff that they're not going into. And they're half doing, we're training them half to do all these things and not, we probably should be taking a lot of it off their hands as a business. And automating and putting it into processes and that's, I mean, that's my daily challenge, is to figure out little things that
100%, 1,000% agree with you. We use different systems over the years, and one of the things that constantly everyone complained about was technology. Now, I mean, as you know, I'm a curious individual, so I went out there and I decided to look at what systems were available, and I did detailed analysis of not just the ones in Australia, but globally, America, UK, and different parts of the world. And some had one good thing, others didn't have another good things. And it was just a constant battle trying to find the complete system that could do it all. Now, there are software out there that are simple software, but as I said earlier, simple software, recruitment's a complex job. A simple software. The best thing about it is simple. The worst thing about it is simple. Recruitment's a complex job. What are you going to do? Go and find another piece of software when you need interviewing software? What are you going to do when you need to do video interviews? Are you going to go and find another plugin for resume parsing, another plugin? So I actually went down the. I mean, you asked me a question. Did I invest into other things? I invested into property later on, and Sydney took a boom, so I did quite well. So I got lucky again. No fault of mine. It was just pure luck. And I decided to invest and build a technology system. And I can put down, I think there's 6 main things, and they're all interlinked, why the industry has a problem. Pricing structure, clients, candidates, recruitment company owners, and the recruiters themselves, technology, and the current generation, the world that we live in. And they're all linked. I mean, the pricing structure for 90%, I mean, we're only paid on success. So a lot of work and a lot of time can get invested that we don't get time on. But again, coming back to technology, how is the technology helping us identify where to spend time, where not to spend time? Where's the data? How easy is it to get the data? How can it help us? A lot of systems don't help you with that.
That's what candidate ID is doing, isn't
it? Yeah. Adam's a good friend. He was in my school. He went to the same school as me, Hutchinson's Grammar. So, I mean, clients, the pricing model, contingent recruiters. I mean, if you look at clients who give you a job, who give you very little information, you need a project manager. And from that, the recruiter's got to try and work out, put an ad up, and then candidates complain about the ad being fake. No, the ad's real, but the client didn't give me the information. And then clients disappearing and doing the ghosting act where you're trying to get feedback. And then a lot of recruiters, they don't have the ability to deal with confrontation. So they're ignoring the candidates until they get the feedback. It's all interlinked with each other. But I think if you look at all the 6 problems, candidates, I mean, every candidate's going through different stages of their lives. Everybody's different. Everybody's got different stages. Everybody's got different needs. Everybody's got different wants. Everybody's got different thing. And in this day and age, it's not an applicant tracking system that most people, they need a recruitment relationship management software where they can track people's different needs, different times of life, because it's mostly passive candidates that 90% of the market is dealing with, which doesn't work with the pricing model. But again, how is technology helping us? How's technology making that process easier, better, faster? And there's 1,000 little problems, but no technology is going out there. So I made it my mission to build that technology. And I've been building it for the last 3-4 years, and I'm about to start releasing it to recruiters. So it is a very detailed software. It's not a simple software. It's got a lot of stuff, and it will take recruiters a little bit of time learning it. But once you learn it, it will help you automate a lot of the processes. And I've not done it because I want to make lots of money or whatever. I've done it because I was frustrated watching 75% of recruiters not bill as much as they should, or their intentions or desires. And then the other
99%.
And then the other thing, the recruitment industry getting that social recruitment bashing that we get in LinkedIn every day of the week. Now, the only way we're going to change the world's perception is if we place more people. That's it. So the software has to help us place more people. And as an industry, we have a very us versus them mentality. Until we start thinking like we together, then the industry is not going to have the reputation I think it needs. Now, I mean, I still remember the early days. I was very proud of the work I'd done. I was making a difference to companies, their staff, and I was watching the early guys that I put into these companies go in and I was like, wow, I get to have such an impact just by connecting people. And that's what made me stay in the industry. It wasn't about the money. I've always done okay. I'm never going to be hungry or homeless. But yeah, I think as an industry, and I think 99.9% of people that I employed were lovely people and they all wanted to do a good job. But until we as an industry start placing, I don't know, each consultant 7, 8, 9, 10 people, we're going to continue to get bashed. And I think the thing that's going to help us is technology. And that's why I've made it my mission to build technology to allow recruiters, and I'm talking the complete recruitment solution, to place more people in jobs. That's my mission.
Are you in beta yet? Where are you at with it?
We get a few beta customers using it at the moment, and we're inviting any other recruiters that want to come and join. want to see the demo. Yeah, I mean, I think the software is incredible, and it's very well thought out.
Is the aim that once you get this tested, you'll go back to the drawing board and tweak it and add extra things in or refine it, or are you pretty happy where we're
I'm very, very, very happy, and I can honestly say that I think it's better than 99% of software out there. And I think value for money, will save a lot of recruiters money, and will save them a lot of time. And managing staff for all the recruitment company owners, the data is available at their fingertips, so they can give real valuable data and advice to their consultants to help them perform better. Sorry, what was your question again? I apologise.
No,
the tweaking part. Technology is always going to be tweaked. The world's going to keep changing. Human psychology is not going to change. We're driven by primal instincts, but the platforms that we communicate on, the methods that we use will definitely change. So the product will never be finished. But what will happen with me is, instead of built by software engineers, it will be built by recruiters and getting feedback from recruiters, and that feedback loop will make it constantly evolving, so we as an industry can place more people.
Have we got a name? Have we got a name that we can look out for?
Yeah, it's called Data Connect with a K. Data Connect. Connect.
All right.
There's a quick website that we've put on, but I mean, we haven't spent much time on the website. But the product, we spent 3-4 years on it.
All right. Well, Quamy, it's been great chatting to you. We're going to catch up again in 6 months, whenever we have this on. And yeah, look, great story. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for letting me pester you with questions. I know you're the one who likes to ask all the questions.
No, thank you for your time, and thank you to all your listeners. And if anybody wants to get in touch with me, can I give them my email?
You sure can.
dean@dataconnect.com with a K.
And they can find you on any of the recruiter groups like Recruiters Online and DSP's Herc Group and a few others, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, Doctor, thanks for your time, buddy, and Merry Christmas when it comes, and Merry Christmas to all your listeners.
Thanks, Quamy. Take care, pal.
Cheers.
A massive thank you to Quamy for coming on the podcast. He's a busy man with his father at the moment, who's not well, so we wish him the best on that. And I've been peppering him for a while to come on because I know his story's really good and I wanted to get it out there. And he's such an interesting character that goes for things wholeheartedly. You know, I first came across him a few years back when I flicked him a candidate when he was running Lloyd Harrington. We couldn't come to an agreement on terms. But he rang me up and asked me a million questions about recruitment marketing last year, and we've got to know each other since. So I hope you all enjoyed getting to know him as well. And look, if you're interested in finding more out about moving to Australia, do hit me up. We're moving the best UK and Irish recruiters there every week. So we'll be back later on in the week with another great guest, and I hope you enjoyed this one.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.